Hello again. I am at yet another place, or yet another park. It's kind of the same park on two different sides, I think, but I'm not certain. I'm just exploring and enjoying the concept of it, exploring different places and just being outside, which again I highly recommend. I was just at the grocery store getting some flowers, and every now and again I lay them at the water. But the intention of getting the flowers was to go and bring them to someone I consider family, but she's a friend, someone I grew up with. And she had been in the hospital for a minute and just got home a little bit ago, and I wanted to bring her some flowers. But I said, you know what? Let me go and check out this place someone else had recommended to me. Because I'm like, I really need in this area somewhere to be near the water. I don't want to have to ride all the way out to the lakefront and or the West Bank or whatever to go near water. I know we got water all around here, but there's so many industrial things near the waterways here that sometimes it's quite difficult. And I certainly do not want to go downtown to try to get near the water. There's too many people. I want something peaceful, something where I can be alone with my thoughts and a little isolated for a little while. That's the peace I like when I'm near the water. And it just happened to look out that way because my intentions was to go straight to her. She's like, well, can you come a little bit later? Like, you know what? I'm going to take some of these flowers and I'm going to go check out this spot. And I am so glad I did. It is beautiful out here. The water's beautiful, even though right now I'm looking at a huge barge float by. But it's not noisy. And I think this is gonna be a chill spot for me as well. So now I got two different options. What I love this for me. But also at the grocery store, which also made me want to come sit near water and just be with myself and my thoughts for a little while. We make plans and God laughs, as the old saying goes. I was checking out with my flowers, and the cashier knew me because I had been in there a few times. And she seems like one of those cashiers that chooses to get to know the customers in the area, which I enjoy. And she's like, oh, it's great to see you again. You going to have holiday with your family? And I was like, yeah, my children and my ex-husband. Oh, you don't have a whole bunch of family in town? I was like, I do, but I don't really spend holidays with them like that. I never really, most of my adult life, I never really did because we traveled a lot. Being a military family, it was kind of hard to do that. On top of when I was married, side street, a lot of times my ex would always just want to see his family, even though my family always enjoyed having us when we did get an opportunity or an occasion to come see them. I tried to smother them with love and presents whenever I could because it was so rare that it was an agreement between the two of us to actually make the extra trip to go see my family, which I wanted to do so badly. And I never really won those arguments except for a few times. And so it gave me a little bit of sadness for several reasons. And one of which is I am kind of disconnected from my family in a lot of ways. See, being on this journey has not been easy in all its ways, but one of the things I lost in that sauce is convincing myself, but also understanding for myself that I needed some space and some separation. Because a lot of things that we forgive and we forget, we should forgive and forget, doesn't mean we re-engage, right? And not that my family was awful or anything like that, like the worst people in the world or nothing like that, because I'm not going to get on here and say that, but there's a lot of things when I was growing up that I dismissed because I was so used to being dismissed. I was so used to not being treated well that when it would happen, I never looked at it as anything other than normal. Once I started to heal, really properly heal a lot of things, I realized I was being disrespected. My mom was being disrespected. My nephew was being disrespected. Even my sister, even though she didn't see it, was being disrespected on a regular basis. And there was no apologetic behavior about this. And I'm not saying it's everybody, but it's enough people. Like even one of my cousins who, I still love them, but I don't have to not love them. And just so you know, this video is signaling to you that it's okay. And I know sometimes it's hard when you're disconnected from what you know. Okay? And during this time of year, it's sometimes the hardest. I had a cousin who I finally processed the fact that he set me up with someone that was a grown-ass man at one point that was a relative of his on his mama's side. He was trying to set me up with this person, and I was a child. I was like maybe 14, 15 years old. And this man was literally in his 20s, against my knowledge, assuming that I would just give in and give this person whatever they wanted physically from myself. I was a fighter even back then, because I was like, no, that's not happening. I needed a ride somewhere. It's like, oh, no, he'll give you a ride. And what he gave me a ride to was his house, in which he put on adult materials to try to entice me. And I sat my behind in the front room and did not move. And in my mind, like, if he come over here and try something, then it's going to be a problem. If it's a problem, it's going to be a problem. I think he sensed this and decided he was going to be a little mad about it. I said, well, if you're going to get mad, stay mad. But what I'm not going to do is what you want me to do. And then Sir decided he was going to not take me home. He was going to drive me all around and threaten me the whole time to try to intimidate me. And then left me in a car for over an hour. And in the summer heat of New Orleans, to try to see if I would just leave, because he didn't want to bring me back home because I didn't do what he wanted. So I said, you know what? He gonna bring me home whether he like it or not. Eventually, he ended up bringing me home after, again, getting back in the car and doing all kinds of things to intimidate me. And it did not work. And it confused me that my own cousin would do something like this to me. And I never really did anything to him. I just kind of sat with my thoughts like, what? Am I reading this right? Did this person just decide to do this? And my cousin actually set me up for this, or this person just decided to do this? And eventually I figured out that both things were true. Both my cousin did that, and that's just one of many things that I've had to deal with my own family. And even those who I was closest to, it's like there was like no respect level for my mother's memory in a lot of ways to me. I would say, hey, listen, I don't want to have anything to do with my father. Not in a I hate him sense, but in a he's had every opportunity to make amends and be a solid dad in whatever way he's able to, whatever's left. And he did not do that. As much as y'all don't realize this, he did not do that. And he made things even worse for me and my children in the interim. And it's like there was no accountability for that. Whenever they see him, they just open arm, hug him, like as if we were throwaway people. Like none of the things that was done to us by him or because of the actions he took in the past mattered. It's like, I actually did allow him to be in some way a part of my life, because I saw him from a perspective of being very, very young when he did what he did. And for those of you who are new here and don't know, my dad took my mother's life, and he did time, got out, rehabilitated himself, got married, and became a minister. And I don't know if he's still doing that, because I don't know what's going on with his life. But I did at some point decide to forgive him. Give him an opportunity to show me who he is now, or show me who he could be. But some part of me wanted that. I was very alone in the world. So it wasn't just for that reason, but my grandma told me a lot of stories about things he had to endure when he was a child to help me understand, because I had already endured so much. And I realized things can happen in a blink of an eye that changes your life trajectory and who you can possibly be. I was very young when I had that epiphany. And somehow, someway, he still managed. Somehow, someway, he still managed to mess that up in the most disrespectful way possible. And so it was my choice to not have contact. Mostly because to this day, my family does not know, at least they don't believe the true story of what happened with my mother and him. I was there. I saw everything. And so did my siblings. But they dismiss it. And as if my dad accidentally did what he did, and he did not. It wasn't an accident. But that's the story he goes with. Yet he stands in front of somebody's pulpit, last I checked, and speaks what he perceives to be the word. I don't care what Bible or what book or what religion you are standing and speaking for. If you're not standing in the truth in your own life, you're not speaking nobody's word. That is just my assessment. But it got to a space, probably pre-COVID, or right at this COVID was hitting, where one of my relatives passed away. And she was like a secondary mother to me, even though there were things within our dynamic that even her children don't know about. That was just me and her. That gave us a level of closeness that I think she didn't have with other of her nieces and nephews. But there was still some level of her that would not believe that her brother would do something like that on purpose. Because I understood. It wasn't necessarily coming from a disrespectful place. She just couldn't bring herself to believe he did what he did on purpose. Well, the saving grace of it, I guess, to me, is my grandmother. His mother believed he absolutely did that. And she's the only one in the entire family that really apologized to me for it happening and the treatment that we got afterwards. And that, the naysayers, all the things, she apologized to me. And it gave me all the peace I needed, I suppose. Doesn't mean I'm going to stand around and be disrespected. What I think they didn't understand is I saw her in a lot of ways, my aunt, as kind of a stand-in, not a surrogate, but a stand-in. She had that mothering energy for me. And I stayed with her for a while when I was living house to house and pillow to post when I was a homeless teen. And when she passed away at the height of COVID, like when it first started, nobody can go and visit her. Nobody can go and see her. Anytime I would visit and get the opportunity to visit during holidays, she spoiled me rotten. She spoiled my kids rotten. She spoiled my husband rotten. And I felt loved by her. There was no question in my mind. So when her funeral started and it was announced that my father was going to eulogize her as the minister, it really felt like a whole slap in the face and another level of disrespect. And then there's some who perceive and believe that it was their mother and had no right to feel no type of way about it. I was like, it wasn't just, she was a mother to all of us. And I know she gave birth to them, but she was a mother to all of us. And that man has done more harm than good to me in my life. And losing her was compounded by the fact that he was standing over her talking and preaching the quote-unquote word over her resting body. It felt like an insult on top of insult because they don't know what I know. At least I perceive it that way. They don't understand what I understand. And even she said, I know he did wrong, but forgive him. She's the reason why, even after, I acted a pure ass about it, honestly. Because I think I had enough. I'm not excusing it. I just think I had enough at that point. And I was going through a whole bunch of other shit. But there's some part of me that was like, y'all need to understand and see that we're just as much family to you as he is. And for some reason, even though he was the one who did what he did, we're being punished for his crimes still. We're treated like others and always kind of have been treated like others in this family. And I'm kind of tired of it. Not kind of, I was just tired of it. And so, when I said what I had to say, it's like the only response was, that was our mother. Our mother just died. In other words, you're being insensitive. And maybe I was. But it wasn't just that. It was a whole bunch of things, and that was just like the pot boiled over. And I don't dislike them or anything like that. I miss my cousins sometimes. We have good times together when we do get together. It's just, at a certain point, even though my mother's not here, energetically, spiritually, on a soul level, I stand with her. And until there can be put some respect put on her name, I gotta remain. And even though sometimes that makes me sad, especially during this time of year, I'm okay with my principles. And I'm sure there's stories not exactly like that, but similar to why a lot of people just like, I don't want to deal with that. The disrespect, the exhaustion, the emotional taxing energy, the eventual, some people, therapy after the holidays because of having had to deal with toxic relatives, especially someone who's an in-law, because it's like my choices were thus, especially when I was in my 20s and raising small children. Go to my family and we're going to have a good time. We're going to eat good. They're going to love on me. But also there's going to be this air of disrespect from my mother's memory. And eventually somebody's either going to tell my daddy I'm there, or he's just going to pop up and nobody's going to care about my wishes and respect my wishes. I even gave him the opportunity, hey, if you still want to have him around, let me know what time he's coming and let me know when he leave. Don't give him no time frame. And whenever he leave, I'll just be close by and I'll come on through. And even still, sometimes that was not respected. And I don't think that there's a full understanding of how that could impact the person, or even if it's understood, they didn't care. So I was faced with that, or my in-laws, who it would be a mixed bag. Sometimes there would be some level of respect, and then sometimes it'd be a complete other disrespect of my energy, my identity, who I am. Well, I guess all that's the same thing. Where I had to be quiet. Where I had to absorb toxicity around me, even though it was not on the surface. It was more like, we can laugh all day long, but also under the surface there's a lot of toxic things that has not been explored or healed or talked about, that is constantly going on around us. And it is exhausting for me to be around this fake laughter when it's clear that people are hurting in this house. So I will go find somewhere to go sleep. And you couple that with the disrespect that will be random at any random moment or any random time. Now, we eventually got to a space where there was a level of respect, but it wasn't until after my father-in-law died. It would be only when my in-laws didn't have extended family around. Because if extended family around, it was a matter. It was not if I was going to get disrespected in a major way, very publicly in front of everybody, but when it was going to happen. An unfortunate thing. Now, he's not like this now. He got my back now. But back then, I could not count on my spouse to actually stand with me. And I don't know if it's ironic or what word to call it. So now, even though we're not married anymore, he has my back now more than he ever has. So when that side came to a head, he chose to stand with me. Even though I was divorcing him, he chose to stand with me. And I've encouraged him since, they reconnect with your mom. Because I saw it from perspective of, yes, she did that. We're no longer married, but she loves you. I know she loves me in her own way too. But the disrespect, I think it all boiled over. Everybody's disrespect boiled over almost around the same time that everybody got clapped. And when I say clapped, I mean it didn't matter who you was. If you disrespected me over the last 2 decades before I started clapping, you got it. You got your issue. And I was not gentle about it. There's some parts of me that's like, that's not my best moments. And eventually I tried to talk to her about it. But some people, it's hard for them to see themselves fully. Especially, it's been my experience. It's hard for them to see themselves fully in the damage they wrought. Because they'd have to admit a whole bunch of things to themselves that they're probably not ready to process in this life. But I will say, it got to a space where eventually I did feel safe around her. Eventually it did feel like family to me. Eventually it did. But it took almost 20 years to get there. And so when we did divorce and I clapped at and when we were divorced and I clapped at everybody, including her and my sister-in-laws. Not because my sister-in-laws were awful people. No, they were always kind to me. But not unlike my husband at the time, they would stand there and just let me get abused and talked about. And I'm like, when they were kids, it was different. When they became grown, I'm like, but why though? You know, when you're not in the room, they're doing the same thing. It's weird. This is mad weird, the way y'all treat each other as family. But it was just me. And I got tired of that feeling of feeling like an outsider within my own family all the time. Like I might as well be by myself. Even though by yourself it's not always easy. It's manageable though. Like even if I didn't have my kids, I'd be alright during this time of year, I think. After the life I've led, I'm cool with my own energy. Even though it's nice to have family gatherings, I do kind of miss that. So I create a family for myself through my friends, and I'm okay with that too. I'm saying this to you so you can understand that you aren't alone. There are complicated families all over the place. And particularly during this time of year after what just happened with the election and everything. I know there's a lot of people like, I'm cutting you off. Listen, I don't advocate for you. Nobody cut nobody off. Excuse me. I ain't, I already know if I'm going to burp, it's going to be on camera and it's going to stay there. Because I don't rehearse nothing. I don't write pre-notes. And maybe I should, but I don't. I like to speak from the heart. And that's where it comes from. So y'all will just have to absorb that burp. But even with that, I never will advocate for you to just cut somebody off that's loving and kind to you and yours because of how they perceive. Well, they making it so that I'm going to A, B, C, and D. Are they though? They're just one person. They can't create that. They can't create that. That is created through a wave of people. They're not the only one. I'm not saying agree with them. I'm saying don't have that conversation with them at all. And keep doing you if you choose to. Now, if someone's doing something egregious, saying some egregious things on a regular basis, that's abuse to you and your energy. So no. In those cases, you might have to cut them off. And that's okay, even though it's hard. I know there's a lot of people who are facing that decision this year. I want you to know you're not alone. I want you to know if you're doing so for self-love, it's okay. Honey, it wasn't just friends. Wasn't just family. It was friends too. It's a lot of friends and people I grew up with that seemed to not understand what I was doing and why. I got very, very tired of trying to explain it to folks, even though it looks strange. I know it looks strange, but do you know me? Do you know me? Did you ever know me? Because knowing me means experiencing me. And is your experiences of me one that tells you who I truly am? Or are you going to go with somebody else's word about who I am? That's one of those things I still struggle with sometimes. Even the people that I had as friends when I was in college. Like, tell me in secret I helped you out and told no one. I was just there for you when you needed me. And suddenly when everybody else is making fun and calling me crazy, calling me a harlot or slut, shaming me, you jumped on the bandwagon, you cut off. I'm good. I don't hate you, but I'm having a harder time forgiving them than anybody else. I know you probably listen to me and think, well, after what your dad did and you forgive him, you can't forgive them. Yes, I can. But I think, and I don't know this for a fact, this is just a feeling. After a while of going through so much, you only have so much forgiving and forgetting you. And I hope I'm wrong about that. Because I'm one of those people, once I tell you, and I don't tell everybody. I don't told everybody on here now, but if previous to doing these videos, I wouldn't tell only anybody. They would know me for years and not know that about me. Now I'm more open about it because there's some part of me that never wanted to be perceived as weak or someone to pity or whatever other thing you want to say about that story. I don't need you to carry me. I don't need you to drag me. I don't need you to do anything for me other than just treat me as I treat you. Period. Someone would have to get real close to me to get the full story of me. And I don't think there's a human being alive that has a full story of me. Not one. Not because I don't want to do that. Because every time I think I get close enough, something happens and I have to back away. And I used to get real sad about that. Now I just accept it as is. And then I remember there are people who I've known on my path that had maybe one or two people in their life, sometimes just a mother and child, and that's all they had is family. And during the holidays, it would be just them two. And they're okay. Then I can be okay. It doesn't mean that I'm constantly comparing suffering. No. I'm comparing strength. I'm saying if they can be strong, so can I. I gather strength from those who I've met along my journey that are in circumstances like that. And I invite you to gather strength from it too. Now, with that said, I know there's a lot of folks over the last 3 or 4 years who've been advising everybody to just cut folk off, just cut folk off. That's not how life should work in my assessment. That is subjective, but hear me out. You can cut somebody off all day long. That doesn't mean you're healed. And depends on what the circumstance is, what you cut them off for. Or did it not change their behavior? Or are you not healed? Have you not dealt with your own crap? Or are you projecting? As if that person or people are treating you with some level of respect or stepping in and stepping up as they claim to or promise to, then what you cutting them off for? That's a you problem. But if they're not and you feel like, okay, I got helicopters flying over and a barge coming by if y'all hear it in the background. If it's like, yeah, I need to go ahead and do this because there's no change in vibration, there's no change in wave, I don't see no change in behavior, I don't see, okay, cool, you have to do that. You know, darling, after that, now it's your responsibility to figure out how to heal the reason why you cut them off. I've seen so many of these kids, beautiful as they are, think that's the time to go boast about cutting people off. And it's not a celebratory thing to cut somebody away from your life that you love. Don't you still love them? Then what you celebrating for? Because they did this and this and this and this to me. Okay, what makes you better then? You're celebrating cutting someone off. You're celebrating hurting them by your absence. That's not a celebratory thing. That's not something you celebrate. Your birth gonna hurt through that. It's something you go heal. And yes, you can look at it, you can tell that story from a place of testimony. That I had to do this for my own highest good. Doesn't mean that I wanted to do this. Okay? You can also tell a story about why you did it without it being coming from a place of malice. And that's a lot of what I've seen too over the last 3 or 4 years. Again, if you're going to just say, if you're going to indict someone fairly or not fairly, then you must also be above the indictment. It's a complicated way of saying judge lest you be judged. And y'all know I'm outside. There's gonna be noises all around. But I hope you understood that. Now, once you get if you don't get to a space of understanding, you need to go and heal that. That's why I wish I would listen to the advice that a lot of the memers put out there, and the healers put out there while I was still healing. Sure, you can still be healing and be a healer, honey. Don't get it twisted. Well, I was still healing for a lot of that when I was clapping at everybody. Said, go heal, hush before you heal. Because you will wind up saying some things that you can't take back. Or saying it in such a way that is not understood, is coming from a place of pain, not malice or evil or something like that. If you care about such things. I used to. I don't really care that much anymore. I choose my words wisely, not because I care about what somebody think of me. It's because I care what I think of me. I care what Ami thinks of me. I care about what she hears in the future. I care about any person who's hearing my voice that's choosing to learn from me. I care what they think and how this is perceived to them. Outside of that, I don't get one single damn about somebody else's perception. If my goal here is to teach, then I must be a teacher. And I cannot effectively do that if I'm not ordering my steps. Am I lying? Nah. So I order my steps and guide my words and my actions based on choosing the pathway of a healer and a teacher. But if you don't heal that, the things that made you cut them off in the first place, if you don't choose to take the time to heal it through sitting with yourself, processing your emotions, processing your pain, realizing sometimes your role in it. Yeah, sometimes you have a role in it too. And in your role sometimes is just mimicking the behaviors that you learned from a lot of those people and not realizing it. Doing that will save you a lot of heartache, and here's why. That has been my experience, and probably a lot of yours, that whatever you don't heal, you're going to run into again in other people. So if you got some mother wounds and some father wounds and some sister wounds, some brother wounds, some uncle wounds, if you don't take the time to properly process and heal those emotions, those wounds, somehow, some way, you're going to act out that pain with someone else, whether they deserve it or not, or you're going to run into someone just like them for you to have the opportunity to process it again. Until you learn these things, till you learn to love yourself enough to go heal it proper. And modalities of healing can look like sitting in solitude for a while, isolating for a little while, and just processing your thoughts, going to therapy of various types. There's different types of therapy. If one type of therapy don't work for you, another will. Seeking out spiritual guidance from someone who is quantified. I know they don't have a T in the middle on that, but I need to go on here and pronounce it quantified. And when I say spiritual guidance, it can be of any form and type that is of your highest good. When I say of your highest good, the intention is to really and truly help you get from one place to the next. Now, if they're telling you to go do all kind of woo-woo stuff without actually helping you to heal, then I would question that. Just between you and I and the sky. And that includes readers and all these things. But readers not helping you to heal what you coming to them for, then know that that's a temporary, soggy, sad-ass Band-Aid in the place of where the healing should be. And all you're going to do is get addicted to having information, because you don't know how to process your own emotions, and it's gotten worse now. It is not there for you to just use in that way. Anybody who's helping you use it that way, that calls themselves a spiritual guide, may not be of service to you. Consider this. And spiritual guides can also look like parishioners, priests, and ministers, and all these kinds. Okay? Because I'm the last person as an omniist to ever piss on or poop on somebody's belief structure and religion. Anything that brings you peace is all right with me, as long as it doesn't take peace from others. Okay? Shouldn't do that. It brings you peace, helps you ground yourself, gives you advisement, and helps you order your steps. It's fine with me. Believers of all types I've seen, I've counseled, and I have no problem with this, and I never will. And that's another thing with my family. On my mother's side, love them to pieces, but they've always either treated me like other too, because again, I don't know if everybody's seen previous videos where I talked about this. The only people who didn't other me were my uncles. My aunt sometimes, dearly departed, but my uncles. I think my aunt had a harder time looking at me than any of my siblings, because I look the most like my mother. It's like I'm a photo negative of my mother. I have her face, but she had that beautiful cocoa skin that I still admire, but I have not yet been able to tan into myself. I just gotta accept what is. But everybody else kind of othered me and my siblings. And I had, again, except for some of the male cousins. The male cousins still treated us like everybody else. It was sometimes the female cousins that would other us. And save for a few. And further, for me, after I changed gears, I guess, in my life. It was confusing to them to leave Christianity and that strict dogmatic concept of spirituality from just an Abrahamic religion perspective, and it was the only thing respected. I'm just like, no, I'm not going to do that. And it was seen as, oh, well, you must be evil or doing witchcraft or whatever kind of voodoo and all these things. I'm like, just because you don't know your history, just because you don't know your lineage, just because you don't understand your bloodline, just because you don't understand where you came from, that don't mean I have to participate in that. I understand it all. I'm not ashamed of any of it. And I will not now begin to be ashamed of it. So there was a lack of acceptance and awareness that I'm still doing me. I'm still a teacher and a helper and of service to mankind. I'm just not doing it the way you want me to do it. And there was a lack of respect for that energy so many times that I limit access. I haven't cut them off, but limit access to myself, because there were so many things that were so hurtful that I had to absorb. I don't know about y'all. If you're around people who have hurt you, even though you know they love you, sometimes when you look at them, you see the hurt and the pain. And that's kind of where I'm at with it with a lot of them. And I have some parts of me that misses them, and when I do, I reach out. But I still check on them, and I still love them, and I still admire, a lot of them for their strength, because they had to endure a lot of crap too. And this I understand. So I am way less quick to cut somebody off than I would have been, say, even 5 years ago. But I was never quick to do that. I don't know where that vibe came from. That is not spiritual in my assessment. It is my assessment and subjective opinion. It is not spiritual to just cut somebody off. That, for me, there must be a process. And what you're saying to yourself, okay, have I assessed this whole situation? Is this person changing? Are they willing to admit what they've done? Are they willing to go through the healing process? All those things. And then after the fact, and then after the fact, You've gotten to a space where you say, well, I'm going to go heal that. And then you do. I think that's a bigger get and a bigger process than just spewing hate and vitriol. And I'm not saying this from a hypocritical perspective. I refuse to. Excuse me, right? Fix my sweater. It's kind of chilly out here, but in a good way. It's like not too cold, not too warm. It's like a perfect day. I'm saying this from a space of, you don't think I didn't cuss folk out before. I didn't gone off on them. I've even clapped at them on social media before. And guess what? The anger still is grief. The anger is still grief afterwards. It's not you empowering yourself, as some people may tell you it is. It's not some form of testimony. No, testimony comes after the storm, and you survived it, and you're thriving there. What it is grief expressing itself through anger. So when you figure out how to not do that, or you get past that point, that's when the testimony comes. You ain't gotta do all that extra hoopla. But that's some things that only comes from wisdom. And wisdom takes time, I suppose. I just want you to know, every single one of you that can hear my voice and that see this video, is to understand that it's okay, babe. It's gonna be okay. I know sometimes it don't feel like it is, but it's gonna be okay. Get up, and if you feel like you're missing a little bit of the nostalgia, learn how to make some of them things for yourself. Decorate your house. And one of the things I did tell my ex was, like, if you feeling some type of way, because he does miss going to his mama's house every Christmas. Now, see, that's some part of me that's not petty per se, but it's some part of me that's like, all these years, even though I had some issues and things with my family, they were always welcoming and loving to me and him. All these years, I was prevented from seeing my family. Now, it's just turn around. It's turned around. Even though that every year, I say since last year or year before, I've encouraged him, go back to your mama. Go to your mama during the holidays. And he still chooses not to. But I think all those years, he didn't fully understand. I think sometimes pain is our best teacher. And when he saw all the pain coming out of me, rushing out of me all at once, when I was clapping at folks, he realized a lot of that pain he could have prevented if he'd have just stood by me in times where I really needed him to and not contributed to it. And I think this is his way of doing that. Although I respect it and appreciate it, doesn't mean that this is not a punishment to her. So if you have family, and this is my way of opening the door for that conversation, if you have family and you've been estranged from them for a while and things are good between y'all, like otherwise, either something's changed or you've forgiven them and you don't know how to open the door, realize there are people who wish they had that, and you are looking at one. That's some part of me that is content, yes, but where I am doesn't mean that I don't wish that I had family to just go walk through the door and say, hey, how y'all doing? And have these memories with and laughter with, because I do. So if you have the opportunity to have that, go ahead and rekindle. And the healed version of you, especially if you've been on a healing journey, could quickly suss out whether or not this is a safe place emotionally for you. And you can always just leave whenever you want to now that you're healed. There's no people pleasing happening as much as it used to, huh, babe? As soon as they get disrespectful, the first thing you can do is say, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and take this opportunity to take my leave. Y'all know I'm in the park. There's people. And then just leave. It don't have to be a whole big old dramatic thing. It's like, you know what? I think I'm done for today. And if you're unsure, have a way out. Always have a way out. And I do not recommend, if you can afford it, staying with relatives that you're not sure, you know, that you're going to be emotionally safe around. Okay? Go ahead and leave. Go ahead, not leave, but go ahead and get you, even if a cheap motel, get you a motel. Don't stay with them folks. Rent a van and put a little air mattress in there, or have it available just in case. Even if you agree to stay with them, get you a plan, an exit strategy, but still reconnect with your loved ones if you have the opportunity to do that, especially if there's little bitties involved. Mm-hmm. They deserve to feel the love and adoration of the ancestors, because one day they will be their ancestors. They'll deserve to feel that. And at any point they do anything toxic, redirect them once. Twice, just go ahead and start packing up and go home. Make you a plate on the way out. That's what you can do now. Because you're grown, you see. A lot of you. There's nothing scary about reconnecting. The only thing that you have to concern yourself with, I'm saying this to people who you perceive at this point can be safe people. Because there was a point at which even one of my grandmothers I would not reconnect with for a while, because I needed to heal some of the things between us within myself. And I did that alone without an apology from her. Because sometimes you're not going to get that. But when she got older in age, I realized that even she had some things that she had not healed from. In this life, she didn't get the same opportunity I got to heal from mine. And when I say opportunity, I mean others have come into my life to show me what love looks like and what it doesn't. To show me what safety looks like and what it doesn't. And I had, for some reason, been blessed with emotional intelligence to be able to figure some things out for myself that she didn't have. I didn't see her from a perspective of me. I saw her from a perspective of her and her own experiences, and realized what she tried to do, which came from a place of love and protection. She gave up her life for her children and for me, regardless of the outcome. So when she asked for my children to come see her when she got older, absolutely. Not even a shadow of a doubt in my head that was going to happen. I wanted my children to know her, to see her strength. They don't have to know all the things in between. I don't have to poison her memory to them. I want her to know, I want my girls especially to see her strength. And sometimes that can only happen in person. And they got the opportunity to do that before she left this earth. And I'm incredibly grateful for that. I'm telling you that so you can consider it for a moment. That what you experience through your caregivers or your bloodline or whomever it was that you might find yourself estranged from, your children may not experience that same thing. Y'all forgiving each other is a sign of strength. And when they get older, you can tell them all the stories about that strength. And at the end, they're like, well, why did we grow up with that person? Because it took a lot of strength for me to forgive myself and forgive them. And I'm teaching you through these things how I did that. You saw it in real time, and I'm going to tell you how I did it. I'm going to tell you what I was forgiving, and tell you what I was healing from that whole time I was raising you. And that's how that's done. The biggest legacy you're going to leave your bloodline when you leave this place is not going to be money and things. It's going to be consciousness, love, intellect, history. Anyway, I talked at y'all for almost 50 minutes. You're loved.